Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take your sources, articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and really cut through the noise to get to the core insights.
That's the idea. We help you sift through the material you've got and pull out what really matters.
And today, we're diving into parts of a book called Coaching Sports to Internet Brats by Dr. Darren Cannell. Now, that title, it definitely grabs your attention.
It does, yeah. But the section we're focusing on today is all about respect and sportsmanship. And it's packed with some really practical stuff.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to explore how this book sees sports as, like, a training ground for essential life lessons.
Exactly. We want to pinpoint the specific behaviors the book highlights as showing respect and, understand the coach's role in actually teaching these things, basically extracting the practical wisdom here.
Okay, let's jump in. The book kicks off with a pretty bold statement that sport isn't just a way, but maybe the best way to teach certain life skills. Skills that last.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Dr. Cannell draws that distinction. He says the physical skills, how fast you run, how high you jump, those fade eventually. But the lessons that stick, things like how to lose properly, how to actually learn something when you fail, how to win without being arrogant, and fundamentally, how to respect yourself and others.
And he really doubles down on this idea of failure being, well, essential for learning. He mentions that saying, you never learn from success, you learn from failure.
Or as some put it, you either win or learn. It's the same concept.
Right.
And he backs this up with his own coaching stories, contrasting teams that went undefeated, cruised through, versus teams that really struggled, lost games, and had to figure out why.
And the takeaway was?
That the real growth, the resilience, that deeper understanding, it came from the teams that faced adversity. Failure, in this view, isn't something to avoid. It's actually the main classroom.
Okay, so that focus on learning through struggle, that seems to lead directly into another big idea in this section, this philosophy of earning it.
Yes, this is a really strong thread. It pushes back hard against any kind of entitlement culture. The idea that just showing up means you get a prize or guaranteed playing time.
So no participation trophies here.
Definitely not the vibe. The book argues that anything truly valuable, whether it's in sports or life, requires real effort. It has to be earned.
And it's not just about, say, making the varsity squad.
No, making the team is presented as step one, a privilege you should respect. But the real currency, according to the text, is earning your playing time.
How so?
Through consistent hard work, through dedication, showing up fully in practice. The book suggests that if an athlete isn't playing much, it's not necessarily a punishment.
It's a consequence.
Exactly. A direct consequence of not having put in the required work to earn that time. And that situation ideally should spark motivation, not resentment or excuses.
That feels like a pretty direct lesson in responsibility, connecting effort straight to outcome.
It really is. It puts the ownership back on the individual athlete and their commitment.
Okay, so let's get specific. The book doesn't just talk about respect in the abstract, does it? It gives concrete examples of what respectful behavior actually looks like on a team.
Right. This is where it gets very practical. It lists specific actions, things like waving to parents after a game, or making a point to shake the official's hands even if you disagreed with calls.
Simple stuff, but important.
And also fundamental things like being on time, every time, for practice. And not just on time, but prepared mentally and physically, ready to go.
And it goes beyond just punctuality, right? It's about how you participate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It mentions things like really buying into team-building exercises, not just going through the motions, giving your best effort in every single drill.
Even the boring ones.
Especially the boring ones, perhaps.
Yeah.
Doing everything the coach asks to the best of your ability. And things like making eye contact when the coach is talking.
And the flip side of that coin.
Not speaking when the coach is speaking. That's presented as a key sign of respect for their role and for the team's focus.
What else falls under demonstrating respect?
There's personal accountability, making sure you're physically able to practice or play, communicating injuries properly, and using your whole presence, your voice, your attitude, your effort to actively make the team better, not just yourself.
So even showing up to practices when you're injured, just to be there.
Yes, the book suggests that shows commitment. Trying your best to be at all team events, functions, whatever it is, it all paints a picture of dedication to the group. It's the language of respect in action.
And naturally, it also outlines what disrespectful behavior looks like.
It does. And often, these are actions that undermine the team or are self-destructive. Things like gossiping, making negative comments about teammates or coaches.
Focusing on your own stats over the team's success.
Exactly. Or engaging in things outside of sport that harm your ability to contribute, like smoking or drugs. And just generally bringing a negative attitude to the team environment.
You know, that point about attitude is interesting. The book defines a positive attitude as more than just being cheerful.
Right. It's framed as a conscious choice, a dedication to how you choose to think, an internal discipline.
Which suggests teaching that mindset is maybe more important than just demanding smiles.
Precisely. Helping athletes gain control over their internal state.
Okay, so clearly the coach is central to all of this. How does the book frame the coach's specific role in teaching respect?
It's positioned as maybe their most crucial role, beyond just X's and O's. The coach is the primary teacher of these values. And the book is very direct. Coaches need to communicate explicitly, meaning they need to tell athletes point blank, referencing specific actions, when their behavior is disrespectful. You can't assume they just know.
And the benefit of getting this right, of fostering that respectful environment.
Well, according to the text, respectful athletes are simply easier to coach, easier to build a strong, cohesive team with. The coach's influence, when used intentionally for this purpose, can be immense.
And this also touches on how coaches give feedback, doesn't it? There's a right way and a wrong way described.
Absolutely critical distinction. The book contrasts criticizing an action with attacking the person.
Can you give that example?
Sure, saying, that was a really stupid play, focuses on the decision or the execution in that moment. It's feedback on an action. Saying, are you ever stupid, is an attack on the athlete's character or intelligence.
Big difference.
Huge difference. Effective feedback, the book argues, stays focused on observable behavior, on the actions, so it can be constructive and part of that learning from failure process.
Now, this idea of respect and responsibility doesn't stop with the player and coach. The book talks about a village, right?
Yes, it expands the circle. Players, coaches, parents, officials, even spectators, everyone has a role in upholding the standards.
So what does that mean for the athlete being part of this village?
It means they represent their actions, on and off the field, in uniform or out, reflect on the entire group, the team, the school, the program. It's about accountability.
And fostering a team-first mentality.
Definitely. Getting rid of labels like rookies, not obsessing over starting spots. The idea that stronger players have a responsibility to help weaker players improve. Because together we are better. That we before me concept is central.
Parents are obviously a huge part of that village. What's their role according to this text?
A really significant one,
Right.
and potentially tricky. The key is modeling good sportsmanship themselves. Cheering positively for both teams, ideally. No booing, staying calm, respecting officials and opponents.
And supporting the coach's message.
Critically important. Reinforcing that idea of earning value through effort, not undermining the coach by complaining about playing time or teaching their kid sort of selective respect. Only respecting the refs or coaches they happen to agree with. And making sure the sport isn't primarily about the parent's ego.
What about the player's voice itself? How they use it during a game?
There's a distinction made there too. Acceptable use is functional. Calling out plays, communicating with teammates, cheering for your own team.
Then unacceptable.
Anything that tears down others. So, trash-talking opponents, arguing calls with officials, publicly criticizing teammates or coaches during the game, that's out of bounds.
It seems like a big part of athletic development, based on this, is developing that internal control, bouncing back from mistakes, tuning out the crowd noise or a bad call.
That mental resilience is highlighted as crucial. It loops back to focusing on what you can control. Your effort, your attitude, how you react, and your commitment to the team.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Thinking about this whole section from coaching sports to internet brats, what are the main takeaways for you?
Well, I think the biggest one is this powerful idea that sports can be, and maybe should be, intentional training grounds for character. They offer these really tangible ways to learn vital life lessons, earning things, dealing with failure productively, working as part of something bigger than yourself.
And respect isn't just some vague ideal. It's shown through very specific actions and commitments to the game, to your teammates, to the whole process.
Exactly. It's demonstrated behavior. And finally, the crucial role of communication. None of this just happens. The coach needs to actively teach and reinforce these values, and ideally, the whole village, especially parents, needs to be sending the same consistent message.
So, to leave you, our listener, with something to chew on from this deep dive, Think about these ideas earning value through real effort, learning directly from setbacks, showing respect through concrete actions. How might those principles apply to a challenge or a goal you're facing right now? It doesn't have to be sports. It could be anything in your work or life.